Rain poured over the dim streets, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and gray. A young girl stood under a broken umbrella, clutching a handful of wilted flowers. Her fingers trembled, not from cold, but from exhaustion. She whispered faintly, "One more sail, please, just one." Cars sped past her, splashing muddy water on her feet. No one stopped. No one cared. Then, through the curtain of rain, a sleek black car slowed to a halt beside her. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a man with eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. Until tonight. Before we dive deeper, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? It amazes me how far a single story can travel. Drop your city. Let's see how wide kindness still spreads. The girl's name was Lily. Every day after school, she sold flowers near the old train station, roses for lovers, daisies for dreamers, and jasmine for those who still believed in hope. But tonight, her hope was fading fast. Her worn-out shoes soaked through, her hands blue from cold. As she approached a cafe, a group of young women laughed behind the glass, pointing at her tattered dress. "Look at her, trying to sell dead flowers," one sneered. Lily looked down, her cheeks burning, pretending not to hear. But humiliation had a way of finding cracks in the strongest hearts. Just as she turned to leave, her small voice cracked through the noise. "Would you like to buy some flowers?" The cafe door burst open. A man in a tailored coat stepped out, holding his coffee. He was tall, confident, someone who didn't belong in her world. "How much?" he asked. His voice was calm, almost gentle. The girls inside exchanged glances, rolling their eyes. Lily hesitated, unsure if it was a joke. "They're $2, she murmured. He looked at her for a long moment, then handed her $100 bill. "Keep the change," he said softly, "and buy yourself an umbrella that works." The girls froze. Lily's eyes widened. "So, I can't," she started, but he interrupted. "You already have." He turned to leave, but something in her trembling hands made him pause. Her gratitude wasn't loud. It was in her tears that mixed with the rain. From inside the cafe, one of the women muttered, "What's his deal?" Trying to play hero. But he ignored them. For the first time in years, Ethan Carter, one of the city's youngest billionaires, felt something shift inside him. He didn't know her story. Not yet. But he would soon learn that sometimes the poorest souls carry the richest hearts, and that kindness, once given, never fades. Ethan didn't know why he looked back. Maybe it was the way Lily clutched those soaked flowers to her chest, or maybe it was a quiet dignity in her eyes despite the mockery she'd just faced. Something about her lingered in his mind long after his car pulled away from the curb. The city lights blurred again, but this time his thoughts were louder than the rain. At home, the mansion was silent except for the ticking of a clock. He tossed his coat on the chair, sat by the window, and stared into the storm. His assistant had called earlier, another meeting cancelled, another deal waiting, but none of it mattered. Not tonight. He kept seeing her face, her trembling hands, her voice trying to stay strong while the world laughed. Meanwhile, across the city, Lily walked home through narrow lanes, her shoes squelching in puddles. The $100 bill was still clenched in her hand. To her, it wasn't just money. It was proof that kindness still existed somewhere beyond the shadows. Her mother's frail voice greeted her from their small apartment. "You're late again, sweetheart." Lily smiled weakly. "I sold some flowers, Mama, and someone was kind." She didn't mention the humiliation, the laughter, the sting of being less than. She only remembered the warmth in that stranger's eyes, a warmth she hadn't seen in months. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He searched online until he found her. Lily Matthews, student, part-time vendor. A few clicks later, he saw her story. Dropped out of high school once to care for her mother, returned later through scholarships. He closed his laptop, rubbing his temples. Something about her spirit felt familiar, raw, unbroken, and quietly brave. The next morning, he returned to the cafe street. The rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and washed clean. He waited. When Lily appeared, her hair tied neatly, her flowers fresh and bright, he smiled faintly. "You again?" she asked, startled. He chuckled. "I was hoping for another bouquet. The last one didn't survive the storm." Her laughter was shy but genuine. You really came back. Maybe I needed the reminder, he said softly, buying every flower she had. You remind me what grace looks like, even when the world turns cruel. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters. By evening, Lily returned home earlier than usual. For once, she had enough money for medicine and a warm meal. She told her mother about the stranger who bought all her flowers, not realizing that this simple act of kindness would set their lives on a collision course neither could have imagined. And as Ethan watched her from across the street, a thought formed quietly. Not pity, not charity, but curiosity. Why does she keep standing when the world keeps pushing her down? He didn't know yet that the answer would change him more than it ever changed her. Days passed, but Ethan couldn't shake the image of that drenched girl holding broken flowers like they were her dreams. He found himself driving through that same street more often, sometimes parking a distance away just to see her. Each morning, she stood at a corner near the station, polite, gentle, invisible to most. She'd smile at strangers who never smiled back. One afternoon, he finally stepped closer. You're always here, he said softly. Lily turned, surprised but calm. Flowers don't sell themselves, sir, she said with a faint grin. He laughed under his breath. May I buy you a cup of coffee instead? Her eyes widened, uncertain. You don't have to. I know, he interrupted kindly, but maybe I want to. They sat outside a small cafe, not the fancy one from before, but one tucked between old bookstores. Lily sipped her coffee slowly, savoring it like a rare treasure. Her hands were still rough from work, but her eyes, they carried stories. Ethan leaned forward. You're in school, right? She nodded. Evening classes. I'm studying to be a nurse. He smiled. That's admirable. Lily looked down. It's not easy, but my mom's health keeps getting worse, so I just do what I can. Flowers help her survive. Her voice trembled at the end. Ethan's heart tightened. He saw in her what he'd lost long ago, innocence that still dared to hope. What happened to your father? He asked gently. She hesitated, then sighed. He left when I was 9. Said life was too hard with a sick wife and a useless little girl. Her tone was steady, but her eyes shimmered with pain. Mom never blamed him, but I did. I promised her I'd never let us need anyone again. Ethan stared at her in silence, his mind drifting back years, to a hospital room, the smell of antiseptic, his mother's hand slipping away while he sat helpless, wishing he could do more. He had buried his grief under success, under money, under everything the world said would make him invincible. But this girl, she carried her pain like it was fuel. Lily, he said quietly, do you ever rest? She smiled faintly. Rest feels expensive. That line pierced him deeper than she'd ever know. The cafe bell jingled as they left. He watched her walk away, her figure small but unbroken against the dying sunset. Later that night, Ethan stood in his office, the city glowing beneath him. Why do I feel this? He murmured. His assistant entered with papers, but he waved him off. Find out if St. Jude Community School has a scholarship fund, he said suddenly. Why, sir? No reason, he replied, though his heart already knew one. He stared at his reflection in the window, the rich man everyone envied, but no one really knew. For the first time, he wished money could buy peace. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. As the clock struck midnight, Ethan decided he wouldn't just watch from afar anymore. Tomorrow, he would begin to change things, not just for Lily, but for the parts of himself that still needed saving. To be continued. The morning came softly, sunlight melting through glass towers and spilling across the sidewalks. Ethan parked across from the station again, his gaze tracing Lily's every motion. She greeted strangers, rearranged flowers, laughed with a child who couldn't afford one, and handed him a daisy for free. Even with so little, she still gives, he thought. He walked up, hands in pockets. You're early today. Lily smiled. So are you. Didn't expect to see my best customer again. Ethan laughed lightly. Maybe I just like your flowers. She tilted her head. Or maybe you're checking if I bought that umbrella. He grinned. You did, didn't you? She opened a small pink one, the cheapest kind, and twirled it like it was a luxury. See? Investment well spent. They both laughed, the sound soft against the hum of city life. Then Ethan noticed the way she winced slightly as she adjusted her bag. Back pain? He asked. Nothing serious, she said, brushing it off. But he could see the truth, exhaustion carved into her small frame, the kind that no medicine could fix. That evening, he called his foundation director. I want to create a special grant, he said, for struggling students, especially those working part-time to support their families. Start with one girl, Lily Matthews. Understood, sir, the director replied, though curiosity lingered in his tone. Over the next week, Ethan watched from afar as her life began to shift. The school principal called Lily into his office, telling her she'd been chosen for a scholarship she never even applied for. Her tuition was fully covered, along with a small monthly stipend. She cried that night, holding her mother's hand, whispering thanks to God for miracles that came wrapped in mystery. But she didn't know the man behind it. Ethan wanted it that way. This wasn't about gratitude. It was about redemption. Each act of kindness healed something hollow inside him, a wound from his own past where no one had shown up for him when he needed it most. Weeks later, he visited the station again. Lily was radiant, humming as she sold her flowers. You look happier, he said. She nodded, eyes glistening. Someone out there believed in me. I don't know who, but it feels like the universe finally noticed. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe you earned it. She shook her head. No one earns miracles. They just happen when hearts are kind. Her words lingered long after he drove away. That night, he couldn't focus on his meetings or the contracts waiting for signature. He went to his mother's old room, untouched since her passing, and whispered, You were right, Mom. Money means nothing if you never use it to heal. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. Meanwhile, Lily's world was slowly turning brighter. Yet, life had its own cruel timing, and before long, a storm far greater than poverty was about to test both her faith and Ethan's heart. A month later, spring folded softly into summer. The streets glimmered beneath a forgiving sun, and Lily's flower stand bloomed like never before. Business was good, her mother's health was improving, and for once, she felt the warmth of stability brushing against her fingertips. But peace, as always, was fragile. One afternoon, as Lily restocked her baskets, a dark sedan pulled up. The same cafe girl stepped out, heels clicking sharply. Well, look who's still playing florist. One of them sneered. I heard someone's been sponsoring you. Guess pity pays well these days. Lily froze. What are you talking about? Oh, come on. Another laughed. Your school fees? Your fancy new supplies? You think no one noticed? Someone rich must have felt sorry for you. Probably that guy who bought your flowers, Ethan Carter, right? Lily's heart dropped. How did they know his name? She remembered the way he looked at her, the quiet kindness, and suddenly it twisted into something she didn't understand. The girls laughed harder, one of them shoving a photo in her face, a news article featuring Ethan's latest charity initiative. The words blurred as she read. Billionaire Ethan Carter launches education fund for underprivileged youth. Her name wasn't there, but her chest tightened anyway. She ran home, breathless, heart pounding. Mama, she said shakily, was I a charity case? Her mother frowned. What do you mean, sweetheart? Everything. My scholarship, the money. What if it wasn't luck? What if it was him? Tears welled in her eyes. Did he think I couldn't survive without his pity? That night, as Ethan returned from a long business trip, his phone buzzed. A message from Lily. Did you do it? He stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Then another message came. Why didn't you tell me? He exhaled deeply, guilt flooding his chest. He typed back slowly. Because I didn't want you to feel small. I just wanted you to have a chance. Minutes passed before her reply appeared. You should have trusted me enough to choose how I felt. He didn't sleep that night. He kept replaying her words, realizing that sometimes even kindness, when hidden, can wound. The next morning, he went to find her, but her stand was empty. She had disappeared. For 3 days, he searched every block, every corner of the city where she used to stand. Each time he saw someone selling flowers, hope flickered and died again. He didn't understand why it hurt so much, this emptiness that felt like losing something he never truly had. Finally, on the 4th night, he found her outside a small hospital, sitting by a bench with her mother's blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her eyes were swollen, her voice hoarse. "Mama's inside. The fever came back. I couldn't afford the new medicine." Ethan knelt beside her, his heart breaking. "Why didn't you call me?" "Because I didn't want to owe you more," she whispered. "If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't." He stood, then offered his hand. "Then don't owe me," he said quietly. "Just let me help as a friend." Lily hesitated, then took his hand. The world felt fragile again, but this time, not cold. The hospital lights buzzed faintly above them, washing Lily's tired face in a dull yellow glow. Ethan sat beside her in silence, hands clasped, waiting for the doctor. Her mother had been admitted with pneumonia. The infection had spread faster than expected. Lily hadn't left her bedside in 2 days. "Don't you have meetings?" she asked softly, breaking the silence. "I canceled them," Ethan replied. "Some things can't wait." Lily stared at him, confused, grateful, angry, all at once. "You shouldn't have to fix everything, Ethan. I don't want to be your project." His jaw tightened. "You're not. You're just someone I care about." Her eyes flickered with emotion. "Then why does it feel like charity every time you show up?" He swallowed hard, words caught in his throat. Because she wasn't wrong. He had stepped in as a savior, thinking his money could heal what life had broken. But love, real love, demanded more than generosity. It demanded humility. That night, while Lily slept in the waiting chair, Ethan walked out into the empty hospital corridor. Memories clawed back. The night his own mother died, the helplessness he'd buried under billions. He realized he wasn't saving Lily. He was trying to save that broken boy in himself. When the doctor finally came, his expression was serious. "We'll need stronger treatment," he said, "but it's costly. Without it—" He didn't finish the sentence. Ethan nodded. "Do it. I'll handle the expenses." Lily woke to find him at the reception desk, signing papers. "Ethan," she called, voice trembling. "Stop. You've done enough." He turned to her, calm but firm. "Let me do this. Please." Tears streaked her cheeks. "You can't buy my pain away. You can't." Her voice cracked. "You can't keep saving everyone." "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but I can save one." The words hung between them, fragile and raw. She turned away, shaking. "You don't understand. Every time you help me, I feel smaller. I need to stand on my own." He exhaled, defeated. "Then I'll stand behind you. Just promise you won't push me out completely." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. She just nodded once, not in forgiveness, but in surrender. That night, when her mother finally stabilized, Lily stepped outside the hospital for air. Ethan joined her. The wind carried the scent of rain, the same scent from the night they met. "Do you ever regret helping people?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Only when I do it the wrong way." She looked up at him then, not as a billionaire, not as a savior, but as a man trying to be better. "Then promise me," she whispered, "if you really care, help me grow, not depend." Ethan nodded slowly. "I promise." "Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did?" "Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply." As dawn broke, Ethan's car waited nearby. But he didn't leave. He sat quietly beside her until the first light touched their faces. And in that silence, something between them shifted. Not love, not yet, but the fragile beginning of understanding. Weeks slipped by in a slow rhythm of recovery and rediscovery. Lily's mother grew stronger, her laughter returning to the tiny apartment that had once echoed only with worry. The air smelled faintly of jasmine again. Flowers Lily now grew on their balcony, each one a small symbol of the life she was rebuilding. Ethan visited often, but never overstepped. He'd learned to simply be there, bringing groceries instead of checks, fixing leaky pipes instead of offering grand gestures. It was the first time in years he'd done something without his wallet leading the way. One evening, he found Lily sitting outside the hospital garden, sketchbook in hand. "You draw?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Only when I can't find words," she replied, closing the book shyly. "It helps me breathe." "What do you draw?" "Mom mostly. Sometimes people who don't stay." He smiled faintly. "Am I in there?" She looked up, eyes warm. "Not yet. You haven't left." The quiet between them was peaceful this time. No tension, no walls. Just two hearts learning to exist side by side. Days turned into weeks, and Lily finally returned to her classes. She'd stopped selling flowers at the station, but every morning she left one fresh bloom on a nearby bench, the same spot where Ethan had once stopped his car. A small reminder of gratitude. One afternoon, as Ethan walked through the same street, he noticed a bouquet resting on the bench again. A daisy, simple and white, tied with a small note. For the people who choose kindness, not for attention, but for love. He held the flower gently, realizing this was a forgiveness, quiet, sincere, and powerful. That evening, he found her after class, standing by the gate. "You left this," he said, showing the daisy. She smiled softly. "It wasn't for you." "I know," he replied, "but I think I needed it anyway." Her laughter broke through the cool air like sunlight after rain. "You're learning." He nodded. "I had a good teacher." They walked together toward the street lights, steps in sync, the world around them calm for once. She spoke about her dreams, to become a nurse, to help others the way her mother was helped. Ethan listened, realizing how different his life felt now, not empty, not transactional, but alive. When they reached her stop, she turned to him. "You know, Ethan, I used to think kindness was just something people pretended to have. But then you showed me it can be real, even if it comes with flaws." He smiled, voice low. "And you showed me that being real matters more than being perfect." They stood there in silence, two souls who had walked through pain to find something softer. Not romance, not yet, but respect and a hope that felt like sunrise. If you believe love still wins, comment amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. That night, as Lily tucked her mother into bed and Ethan drove home under a sky full of quiet stars, both whispered the same unspoken prayer. Gratitude for the people who stay when life gives you every reason to run. Months passed, painting the city in softer shades of gold. Lily graduated from her nursing program, her white uniform gleaming beneath the morning sun. Her mother stood proudly beside her, tears glimmering like pearls in her eyes. And behind the crowd, unnoticed yet deeply moved, Ethan watched with a quiet smile. He didn't step forward, didn't take credit, didn't speak. For the first time, it wasn't about him. It was about watching someone he once pitied rise tall enough to humble him. After the ceremony, Lily found him standing by the garden where they first talked after the storm. "You came," she said, smiling. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world," he replied. "You know," she said softly, "I used to think destiny was something cruel, like the world just enjoyed testing how much I could take. But now I think maybe destiny is just waiting for the right people to walk into your story." Ethan's gaze softened, and sometimes those people show up when you least expect them. They sat on the old bench, silence filling the spaces words couldn't reach. "I'm starting work next week," she said. "It's not a big hospital, but it's honest." He smiled. "You'll make it brighter just by being there." She looked at him, eyes shining. "You gave me more than help, Ethan. You gave me a reason to believe that kindness still exists, and that even the rich can have hearts." He chuckled quietly. "And you reminded me that the poor can be richer than we'll ever understand." The wind stirred the flowers nearby, petals dancing through sunlight. Lily reached into her bag and handed him a single rose, fresh, delicate, full of life. "For you," she said. "Not because you bought it, but because you earned it." He took it gently. You always did know how to end things beautifully. Lily smiled. It's not an ending. It's just peace. They sat together as the sky turned amber, their laughter soft, their hearts lighter than they'd been in years. Two souls from different worlds who had met in the rain, broken each other open, and somehow healed. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, I felt you. And as the final rays of sunlight faded behind the horizon, the world seemed a little gentler, because somewhere a once poor flower girl and a once lonely billionaire had proven that compassion is the greatest wealth of all.